Going to calculate materials and labor variances. And so I have the e-text pulled up with the problem information and the working paper template down below so that we can use it in Excel. And so we have Matthews Fender, which uses a standard cost system, manufactured 20,000 boat fenders during 2018 using 143,000 square feet of extruded vinyl purchased at $1.30 per square foot. Production requires 400 direct labor hours that cost $16 per hour. The direct materials standard was 7 square feet of vinyl per fender at a standard cost of $1.35 per square foot. The labor standard was 0.028 direct labor hour per fender at a standard cost of $15 per hour. Compute the cost and efficiency variances for direct materials and direct labor. Does the pattern of variances suggest Matthews Fender's managers have been making trade-offs? Explain. And so down here in the Excel file, they gave us a place for direct materials to calculate the cost variance and the efficiency variance, and then for labor, the cost and efficiency. So we'll get started with the direct materials cost variance. And just as a reminder, the calculation is going to be the actual cost minus the standard cost times our actual quantity. And so I'm going to type it out here, and then next to it I'll actually do the Excel calculation, but that way we can see it typed out first. So if we come back up into the information, we're looking for actual cost and standard cost. So it told us that we purchased it for $1.30, so that's our actual cost. So put $1.30 here, minus our standard cost of $1.35, close parentheses, times the actual quantity, and we used 143,000 square feet. So we filled in our actual cost, standard cost, and actual quantity. And so over here, we'll actually do it in Excel. But you're going to want to use the absolute formula or function because we want it to return all of the numbers as a positive number rather than a negative number. So we'll type ABS, open parentheses, and then we'll do a second set of parentheses, $1.30 minus $1.35, close parentheses, times 143,000, close the second set of parentheses, and we can press enter, and we get a variance of 7,150. And so now we're wondering, is this a favorable or an unfavorable variance? And if we look back at the information, actual cost of $1.30, standard cost of $1.35. So that means we paid 5 cents less per square foot than what is the standard, which means our expenses would have been less than expected, which means this would be a favorable variance because that would positively impact our operating income. So for direct materials, our formula, for the efficiency variance is going to be actual quantity minus standard quantity times standard cost. So we'll do the same thing where we type out the formula and then we'll calculate it over here. So for actual quantity, we have the 143,000 square feet minus the standard quantity. And so they didn't give us that directly. What we do know is that the direct material standard is 7 square feet of vinyl per fender. And so we have to calculate what that would be. And so we know that they manufacture 20,000 fenders. So let's do another set of parentheses here. for standard quantity, 20,000 fenders times 7 square feet, close parentheses, times our standard cost, which was $1.30. Oh, I'm sorry, that's our actual cost. Standard cost, $1.35. And so let's just down below, or maybe even over to the side, calculate that 20,000 times the 7. And so we had a standard quantity of 143,000, or 140,000. My gosh, I'm sorry, I'm a mess today. Actual quantity 143, standard quantity 140. So what does that mean? That means we used more materials than we should have, so we know up front that this is going to be an unfavorable variance. And so we'll use our absolute function again, open parentheses, 143,000 minus 140,000, close parentheses, times $1.35, close parentheses, and we get 4,050 unfavorable. And so they didn't ask us, oh, down here they did that calculation for us. Oh well. They didn't ask us to calculate the overall direct materials variance. They just had us break it down right away. But we could calculate that if we wanted to. And so overall, our direct materials variance is 3,100 favorable. So let's come down to the direct labor cost variance. Our formula is the same, so I'll just go ahead and copy that down. And then let's find this information. So we're looking for actual cost, which they tell us was 16 per hour, minus the standard cost of 15. So we know that this is going to be unfavorable because we paid $1 more than is our standard, which means our expense was greater, times the actual quantity, which was 400. So, and of course we know that 16 minus 15 is 1, but I'm still just going to type it out as best practice for, I don't know, I just think it's best practice to let Excel do that for us, especially because it might not be such simple math as just being $1. So we have 400 unfavorable here. Now the direct labor efficiency variance, the formula for efficiency stays the same, so we can copy that down. And as far as the actual quantity goes, it was 400, which is given to us. Standard is not directly given, so we would have to calculate it. And you can see that they did that in our Excel sheet. So they took the 0.028 direct labor hours times the 20,000 fenders to get the standard quantity. So I'm going to just type that out in a set of parentheses here. 0.028 direct labor hours per fender times 20,000 fenders gives us a standard, and then times the standard cost of 15 per direct labor hour. So our actual quantity was 400, the standard quantity was 560 times 15, close parentheses. And so we know that this is going to be favorable because we were expecting it to take 560 labor hours, but it only took 400 labor hours. So we were more efficient than we expected. So we have a favorable variance here. And like we did with materials, we could calculate a direct labor overall variance, which would be 2,000 favorable. And so now the problem's asking us, what does this suggest about trade-offs existing? And so what I want to point out is that had we not broken down these variances into cost and efficiency, and we were just looking at direct materials and direct labor, we might assume that the managers did a great job and nothing should change because we have two favorable variances. But when we dig deeper into it and break it down in terms of cost and efficiency, that gives us more information. We see that we have a favorable and an unfavorable under both categories. And so we might want to look into that deeper. So when we look at this cost variance, we're seeing that it's favorable. So we spent less money on the material than was our standard, but our efficiency is unfavorable. And so what would you ask yourself as a manager? And you might be asking yourself, wait a second, did we buy a cheaper product, but now we're wasting more of it? And yes, I mean, it appears that that could definitely be what's happening. However, the overall impact is still favorable. So, okay, so maybe it's okay for us to waste a little bit more material because we're getting it cheaper enough that it makes it worth it. But it's not just about that number. We also have to wonder, if we're buying a cheaper product, are we sacrificing the quality of our product? And what would the impact of that be? And so we have to keep digging into it and finding that special balance of still providing a quality product, but doing it as cost effectively as we possibly can. So then, same thing when it comes to labor. We see that, we paid $1 more than we expected, which gave us an unfavorable cost variance. However, in terms of efficiency, we were far more favorable than we were unfavorable. And so what happened? And we would look at this and say, by paying $1 more, were we able to get better quality employees that were therefore more efficient? Or maybe the quality of the employee wasn't better, but they were just more motivated because we started paying them better and appreciating them more. And so now they were motivated to be more efficient. And so these are the sorts of questions as managers that you're trying to ask and to dig into deeper when you see these variances. And again, I think we can make an argument that it's worth it to be $400 unfavorable if that means we're going to have more efficient employees by $2,400, leaving us with a total 2,000 favorable variance.